Happy Friday, everyone. I know you guys are excited for this video. A lot of you have been always asking me my favorite amplifiers, what I think are the best amplifiers I've ever owned. I did a video, if you haven't watched it, go back to my older videos. There's a video that I loaded about the worst power amplifiers I have ever owned. Well, this video is part one of two videos. This video will be about the top cost no object amplifiers I have ever owned. And I wanted to say to you guys, this video is really about my own personal experience. Okay, if there's an amplifier that I'm not mentioning here on this list, it is probably because I've never owned it. If you believe there is a better amplifier than what I have chosen, maybe it is something I need to try. But I wanted to just give you my perspective with hands-on experience without having to rely on magazine reviews or he said, she said, which I know a lot of people go by these days. There are a lot of things happening in my room soon, but I am going to stay on topic here for this particular video. This will not be a video for music. If you're expecting a shootout, this is not the video for that. As you saw, the title of the video is the best cost no object amplifiers I have ever owned. And I have selected the top 5. It was very hard to arrive at this list because I have to go by memory and my recollection of everything that I've had in this room, obviously with the exception of one amplifier, but I tried as hard as possible, and I put on paper bullet points for me to read off to you guys so you guys understand clearly what my thoughts are about each of these 5 amplifiers that I have selected here. Okay, this, by the way, it is not in any particular order. These are randomly selected 5 amplifiers that I think have left a long-lasting impression and that I feel are worth the money. I feel they are the top. They're the top tier group. Okay, so when you think about the best amps, these are it for me, in my opinion. Now, keep in mind, my opinion can change over time as I bring other amplifiers, as I review more product. What is top 5 today may not be top 7 or 8 in a year or two. Okay, so everything, there's an evolution process here, guys. Over time, things will change. My opinion of certain components will begin to change simply because, new products are being brought in my room and I'm able to play with different gears. So, none of this is static. This list can move over time. Okay, so as of today, July 2020, these are the top 5 amplifiers that I have ever owned. I'm going to go over first one, Block Audio. Block Audio is, if you guys do not know about the line, about the product, it is out of the Czech Republic. Very small representation here in the United States. They are still, trying to enter and penetrate the US market. A lot of you guys have seen me talk and mention this amplifier that I've owned. It's called the Block Mono SE. And this amplifier essentially is 90 kilograms per mono, per chassis. It's eco-friendly. That means that if there's no signal coming in, it automatically goes into a eco-friendly, low power mode by itself. The moment you begin to play music again, then the class A kicks in again. So it just detects the signal coming in. I think it's kind of cool because sometimes, we happen to have class A or tubes and we listen to music and then we have to get out really quick to run an errand or take care of business, and we leave the amplifier running for 3-4 hours, or maybe just you fell asleep on the chair and then you realize now the amplifier, when you wake up in the morning, has been on for 8 to 10 hours. So this is smart enough to understand when you're not playing music, it automatically goes into an echo mode. I think that's really cool. I love that type of extra those extra steps that some manufacturers take. I think that this is beautiful. This is innovation. This is the type of stuff I like to see in amplification when it makes sense, of course, and it doesn't take away any sort of performance. Okay, when there are no compromises, of course. 500 watts per channel, and the first 200 watts are in Class A. So after it has ran out of Class A, it automatically kicks into Class AB. I personally never found a difference in the sound when I crank things up hard. I never found that I could detect when it was in Class AB or Class A. It sounded the same throughout. Maybe I never ran out of Class A, who knows? But it always sounded, to me, very, very musical, very big, bold, badass. And this amplifier sound, it's like a sibling of a Griffin. Matter of fact, I am willing to say this is the closest you can get to the Griffin sound if you do not want to go with Griffin. I think block audio, it is really almost a mirror image of the sound that Griffin puts out. Let me see. The sound is very pure. It's very detailed, clear with tremendous air in the high frequencies. Okay, I do remember those with my Neolith when I had them. Let me see. Impeccable construction from top to bottom. I mean, this amplifier, guys, was gorgeous. When I mean gorgeous, and I selected the red color because there's options. You can get it in a red chassis or you can get it in a standard ash color. And the construction, the way it felt, it just felt like nothing was left behind. Like everything felt very, very well built, very, very heavy. Even the binding posts, if you look at some images online, I mean, even the receptacle where you plug in the power cord is different. It's a different design. It stays in there so it doesn't get... So you basically cannot just unplug it by pulling on the cable. Like, it's impossible to do that. There's a design where the cable goes deep into the chassis, and the binding posts are amazing looking. Everything screams construction in this amplifier. Now, as far as, like I said, the sound is very pure. This is essentially the dynamic, explosive type of sound. This amplifier leans towards that type of amplification, just so you know. Okay, it's very dynamic, slam, punch, huge muscle, huge muscle. Now, in terms of the cons that I find is, number one, it's not made in the US. Okay, and believe it or not, that impacts. There are a lot of American audiophiles, a lot of them, that just simply don't want to buy imported product. And you know, and that's fine. That's their money. You know, I'm not anybody to tell people what to buy. I took a gamble when I bought this amplifier, and it always paid off in terms of the reward that I got, the satisfaction that I got back. But I can tell you that the fact that it is not a US made product, I call it a con, believe it or not. It also doesn't have any current repair centers in the US. Again, so if it breaks, you got to send it to the Czech Republic. That's really the only thing that I find that is a big knock on the amplifier. Nothing else. The next amplifier on the list is the Dan D. Agostino Momentum M400s. Made in the US, 400 watts per channel into 8 ohms, doubling all the way down to 2 ohms. The most gorgeous looking chassis and aesthetics I've ever seen, which is essentially what you see here on the floor. That's basically it. That's just the stereo sibling of the monos. It runs hot, almost like a Class A amplifier. It responds really well to cable swaps, believe it or not. It really does let you hear. So there is some level of transparency there. It leans towards the sweet, smooth side of things. Zero fatigue. Crystal clear with good bass control. Not the bass of the Griffin. Or the block audio, but it has good bass control. The chassis, the cons are, the chassis is a pain to keep clean. I mean, dust and it's easy to see, just you're constantly wanting to wipe the amplifiers or the preamplifiers. Also, some say the finish can tarnish and deteriorate if not handled carefully. So that means you have to have clean hands when you handle these amplifiers, because the oil in your hands, believe it or not, with constant heat, can indeed tarnish the finish. I've heard that. I personally haven't seen it, but I've had that feedback from several others. So I wanted to put that out there. And I still believe this is the best looking amplifier I've ever had. Still number one when it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to look. It's got the wife approval for those of you who need to have that as well. It's got that. It looks good in any type of environment. It really does. Next amplifier on the list is the Constellation Centaur 2 monos. I had those amplifiers briefly, but I had them long enough to be able to gauge their sound. 250 watts per channel. This amplifier is more musical than the Momentum, so it is on the sweet, smooth camp. It is definitely more musical. It feels more aggressive when it comes to musicality. It's about that. It's about taking you away. It's about surrounding you with as much seduction so you can listen for long periods of time. That's the business of this amplifier. This amplifier doesn't care to throw you around with dynamics like Griffin or block audio. It doesn't care to do that. It cares to do what the Momentum does, but even higher. Bigger soundstage on the block audio and the Momentum 400s. I will say that. This amplifier did have a bigger soundstage. It felt very deep, very wide. Wider than deeper. It just felt wider. It felt like it just gave me a lot more wall-to-wall than I remember the Momentum's doing when I had him here. Good bass control, beautiful mids, very tube-like mids, very similar to the M400s. The understated look, actually, I liked it. It's very plain looking. There's nothing really that stands out on the chassis, but I liked it. I thought it was cool. I really liked that look because it doesn't call attention to itself, and it's easy to clean. It never looks dirty. It never looks like it has, anything that you need to wipe down, and I love that about the amplifier. The cons are, it is very expensive, guys. It is a $90,000 MSRP monoblock. I mean, it is crazy. For the pair, it's $90,000. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me when I had them is they're very moody amplifiers. Guys, they have a tendency to sound incredible and just startle you with the presentation. And then all of a sudden, the next day, they sound like dirty. They sound like they can't really give you the same level of detail, clarity, information, resolution that you had the day prior. So that's one thing I never quite understood about the amplifier. I read somewhere, I believe Stereophile had a review on the stereo version, the Centaur 500, I believe it is called. And they mentioned that as well, as far as they felt like the amplifier went through moods. And it was an amplifier that was already broken in, by the way, what I had. So it has nothing to do with being too new. It went through ups and downs. I left it on at all times. I felt like it was very prone to your AC line, very prone to whatever noise was coming in, basically your grid. I felt like you could almost tell when there were a lot of people, on using the power in your house or whatever. It almost felt like it told you that through the music. That's something that I found very interesting. I've never heard that with any other amplifier. This is the only amplifier that has given me that feedback. If you're curious about this, read the Stereophile review of the Centaur 500 2 that you'll see on Stereophile. They talk about this at length, a little better than I can explain it. The Griffin Coliseum is the next amplifier, which is what you see there. Built in Denmark, 160 watts of pure Class A, with peaks of 4,000 watts per channel. It has spooky 3D imaging, better than the Constellation. I would say Yes, I would say there is a little more of that than the Momentum 400s. It has three levels of bias, which can be selected that allow you to choose how much Class A you need depending on how loud you are listening to or the type of speaker that you own. So if you have, let's say, a horn, 96, 101 dB efficiency, you can get away with using the low bias setting. So you're not burning more electricity than you need to. If you have magnepans, you may want to use the high bias setting, right? So I love that about the Griffin. Again, it goes back to what I was saying. I love innovation. I love to see these little extra tricks the manufacturers can incorporate in an amplifier that allow us to see new things. I love that. Just like Block Audio has that feature, but in a different way, it's really essentially the same thing. Let me see what else did I do. Possibly the best bottom end control out of any amplifier I have ever owned. Only rivaled by the Block Audio, I must say that. Mountains of dynamics, speed, and detail. The feel, they give you the feeling that you're there. This amp leans towards the dynamic, explosive side of things. It's a tad sweet, but it's mainly the dynamic, explosive camp of amplification. It doesn't run as hot as past labs. Build quality is some of the best in the business. Just like Block Audio has excellent build quality, the Momentum has excellent build quality. These amplifiers all have excellent build quality. Now, here we go. The cons of this amplifier. I don't believe these are cons that are represented anywhere out there online. Anyone who talks about Griffin in general, I don't believe these things are talked about. So I'm going to put them out there, okay? Number one, it's not cheap. $50,000 MSRP for a stereo amplifier is a hell of a lot of money. I mean, you can almost get monoblocks, top-end monoblocks for that kind of money, right? So I think it's a lot of money for a stereo amplifier. This amplifier, in my opinion, needs quality cables, guys. You cannot buy a Griffin, at least a Coliseum, and decide to use subpar power cords, let alone high capacitance speaker cables. If you have seen my videos, there is a video that I'm talking about issues that I've had, buzzing sounds. Okay, this amplifier had an issue with Cardus Clear Beyond speaker cables. It never liked that speaker cable. It gave me buzzing sounds. It always had this 60 hertz buzzing sound through the tweeter that I couldn't shake off no matter what I did. I even plugged in the amplifier in a different outlet outside my house to bring a different circuit and see if maybe it was just my electrical that was not working or it was something related to power. No, the amplifier didn't like that speaker cable. And I was told by the manufacturer that indeed this is the case. So Griffin does not like high capacitance speaker cables, as an FYI. So you have to be very selective with Griffin cabling, in my opinion. You have to really give it quality cables, low capacitance quality cables. Okay. This could be a con for some of you. It has two fans on the top. Okay, so let me show you. So it has a fan right there, and there's a fan right there. All right, and those fans are only on when the amplifier needs it. I never hear them, but I know some of you guys hate fans and amplifiers, so I just wanted to put it out there. It does have fans. I never hear them. Then again, I am about 13, 14 feet away from the amplifier. So, I just wanted to say that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to call it like it is. And I'm going to call it like it is right now. Okay? Another con is there are plenty of rumors that their current distributor is extremely hard to work with when warranty service is needed. I will leave it at that. I won't say anything else. The final amplifier on this list is the Passlabs XS300. This amplifier is the most powerful Class A amplifier I have ever owned, 300 watts per channel. Tremendous external power supplies, with huge chassis, liquid, bowl bass, amazing instrument separation. Sounds good even with stock power cords. That amplifier always impressed me, even when I used the crazy cheap power cords they come with. Okay, it still sounded good. It really didn't. I mean, obviously, it sounded better with better cabling, but it sounded so good that I don't feel the change was as massive with that amplifier as it was with the rest of the amplification that I mentioned above. And it could be because of those external power supplies. They might already be doing a lot of the filtering internally. They might already be passing a lot of the signal through capacitors or other line filtering devices inside those power supplies that allow it to cleanse as much of the dirty current that we have and noise as possible. It did improve with my nordost Odin power cords on the power supplies. But what I wanted to say is it still sounded damn good with the stock power cords. Another thing about PassLabs that I love is it's, in my opinion, the best company to work with. And I mean it when I say that, okay? PassLabs is a class act, a benchmark when it comes to customer service and attention. They fix amps even out of warranty for free. I have seen this. I have seen people who've sent their amplifiers that had some sort of failure well outside of the warranty period. And PassLabs will look at the amplifier, determine that there was a failure that should have never occurred, and they'll fix it and send it back to the person and say, you owe us nothing. This should have never happened, regardless of the age of the amplifier. I mean, that's what PassLabs is. I mean, if every manufacturer took a page out of PassLabs books, I mean, they'd probably be a better company. They'd probably have more customers. And I mean that. I mean, that is what I'm talking about. I mean, when you buy a PassLab product, guys, you can forget about being nervous about something breaking. Guys, I'm telling you, you have support top to bottom. You have nothing to worry about. I mean, PassLab is king when it comes to that. When it comes to warranty, when it comes to service, when it comes to all of that, it is, in my opinion, the best. Now, the other manufacturers that I've heard, I'm not gonna give names. I have heard things such as 3 months to get a product to be fixed. We have 2 technicians and 300 amplifiers to fix. We don't have enough manpower. It's taking us longer than expected to fix your item. I mean, you could be out of a product for 3 months, and I'm talking domestic product. I'm not even talking about European stuff. I'm talking about stuff from the States. Okay? I'm not going to go into detail. If you guys are smart, you guys, I'm sure by now, know who I'm talking about. Which manufacturers are notorious for this disaster. Okay? But just to give you a little hint, the bigger the brand usually means the harder it is to get stuff fixed. The next part of it is another thing, the cons, right? The cons of the PassLabs. It runs very hot, guys. I mean, 4 chassis, dissipating heat, guys. If your room is small, let me tell you, you are going to be sweating like you can't believe. I mean, you are going to be in a sauna, essentially. I'm not even kidding you. Even in my room with a dedicated AC system, yeah, I mean, it got toasty here, guys. Granted, I am in Florida and I understand that, but my AC is at 70, 71 degrees, and that's where I needed to be if I had those PassLabs amplifiers running. Another thing that I did not like about that amplifier is I felt it took about 2 to 3 days of constant playtime before they really came alive. I mean, you almost had to leave them on Wednesday night so that you can have an amazing listening session by Friday. When you were off and you wanted to come home at night and enjoy your night, you needed to have them on by Wednesday. I mean, it was that bad, and I really did not like that about the amplifiers. I felt like, I don't know why that was designed to be that way. I don't know of any other Class A amplifier that takes so long to really sound, so good. In addition to that, this is another con that's tied to that. So sometimes you need to leave this amplifier on for so long, right? Because, when you turn it off, there's basically no current passing through the circuits. I feel like PassLabs is due to overhaul this amplifier. They gotta overhaul. They gotta redesign these XS amplifiers. In my opinion, as good as they are, guys, I have given you two examples above, okay, of two amplifiers that are doing, two manufacturers that are doing great things. Griffin with their low, mid, and high bias setting, and then Block Audio with the echo mode. They're both Class A amplifiers, guys. I think this whole entire thing of full Class A, like krell from the 80s and 90s and all of that, that's got to go, guys. I mean, we got to go greener. I know some of you guys are going to say, well, that's what you get. That's what, Class A is like. No, guys, I disagree. This is not tubes, okay, that they dissipate heat and you have to because the tubes need to be at a certain temperature. That's different. This is a solid state design. They can easily implement things inside the circuitry that doesn't affect performance, that keeps the amplifier right at the perfect temperature so that it only needs, 30 minutes of playtime before they hit their stride. I actually even voiced this to past labs. Over the phone, I told them, look into the Griffins, look into the Block Audios, read up on what they're doing. You all need to start stepping up. You need to start creating a little more innovation with your Class A design. Now, maybe you don't do this on all the amplifiers, but if your top models need to have that, in my opinion. I mean, you can't be drawing 1,000 watts per side just idly with no music playing, guys. That's 2,000 watts plate non-stop sucking power from your outlet for no reason. I feel like they have to be able to come up with a circuit of some sort where the amplifier detects no signal and then they go into less of an aggressive bias, where they can actually just have enough current to keep the components toasty inside, so that it doesn't take hours of them playing music before they sound good. They need to do this. This is long overdue, and I think this is something that I believe they are aware of. Of course, some of you might say, why change the design? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Guys, times change. You gotta create. You cannot stay on top of your game if you don't innovate when it comes to technology. Innovation is big. It's part of the game. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you got to innovate. You got to show customers like me and you guys, what are you guys doing to better the product, to save the planet? Because it is important. Let's keep it real. It is important. Nobody wants to have an amplifier cooking in your room, for no reason if no music's playing. Or you don't want to wait 3 days before the amplifier sounds good. So there are ways of getting around this if they really wanted to. Why is it that Lincoln and Ford went away from their V8s and now they're doing 6 cylinders, twin turbos? Right? Times are changing. They're changing. Everybody's changing. You see what I'm saying? So this is happening now. So the car industry is doing it to save gas. Amplifier manufacturers need to start thinking the same when it comes to. Following up on the video that got cut off, I'm adding this extra piece. What I was saying is, if Lincoln is able to go away from the 8-cylinder in their Navigator, and the 4F-150 now is no longer an 8-cylinder, and they're doing V6s with twin turbos, why is it a problem for amplifier manufacturers to do the same? I mean, guys, you have engineers out there working 24/7, trying to think about ways to come up with better design, more innovation, as I mentioned earlier, more ways to make the product better, more ways to really, really take the product to a whole new level, right? I feel like, there's no excuses at this level. If you fall asleep behind the wheel when it comes to technology, you will be done in no time. Okay? Think about cell phone manufacturers, right? Every year we have a new phone, a new iPhone, a new Galaxy Note, a new Samsung, Galaxy. Every year, nonstop. Technology is no different for amplification, And another thing is, if you notice, most of these manufacturers that have the expensive amplifiers, right? they have a 5-year lifespan. In the case of the Past Labs XS300, I mean, they have been out for like 8 to 10 years now. So they've had plenty of time to think about ways to improve the circuitry of the amplifier. And mind you, I'm not the guy who's going to complain about power consumption because, quite frankly, I have all my amplifiers on at all times, 24/7. But that's not really the point. The point is, especially with Class A amplification, I'm talking specifically about Class A amplification that because they're so power hungry, gotta come up with something better, guys. Manufacturers gotta hear this. They gotta be able to understand that they lose customers. I know some of you out there wish they could put a pair of Past Labs XS300s, and it's got nothing to do with the money. It's got to do with, my God, my room is small, and I can't. I mean, there's too much heat, or, I got to put them inside of a certain shelf or compartment, and they're going to cook up the rest of my theater or the rest of my components above. You're losing so many customers, a lot of business, because you can't come up with a smarter design. I mean, it is 2020. Times have changed. I mean, I know it's cool to have a huge amplifier with huge heat sinks and big chassis, 250 pounds, massive power cords, and I know it's cool, guys. I know it's great, and I'm a big supporter of that because I do like big amplifiers myself. But it gets to a point where it now becomes an obstacle to continue to do the same. And I don't want to hear the whole, if it ain't fixed, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. I'm sorry. I mean, with technology, you got to improve constantly. You got to make things better. And eventually you're going to get left behind. I love Past Labs. As I mentioned, I really love their support. They have been great to me each and every time. Anytime I've had a question, somebody answers the phone. Somebody's there to answer every single detail, every nuance. I mean, these guys know their product with their eyes closed. They could be answering questions in their sleep. I'm not kidding you. They know what they're talking about. They know their products really well. And I love what they do. I love the way they treat you. I do believe their best amps are the XS amps, in my opinion, even though I have never owned the 200.8s and the 600.8s. They are both in my radar. I will tell you, they are both something that I am contemplating. But for the time being, I have had their best amplifiers, the XS150 and the XS300s. So I can speak at length about their top two power amplifiers. When it comes to the overall holistic picture, guys, of the amplifiers I have talked about today, again, this is my personal opinion. This may not be how you feel. You may feel otherwise. You may hate all 5 amplifiers, and that's totally fine. Because at the end of the day, this is about flavor, and this is about what you want to do and what you want to do with your setup, or what you like or dislike. I am just sharing with you my views. I'm sharing with you my opinion, and by no means is my opinion gospel. It isn't, But I can tell you, I've lived with a lot of this stuff. Okay, and the 5 amplifiers that I have covered here are amplifiers that any of you, I would say at least 90% of you, would be blown away by. Easily. So think about my thoughts. I am trying to come up with the list pretty soon of the top amplifiers under $20,000. Top 5, maybe top 3, I'm not sure, under $20,000 MSRP that I believe are the greatest bang for the buck. No, they're not going to touch this list. I just want to make sure I say that, because people begin to, twist my words, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear here. No, those top 20 amplifiers under $20,000 MSRP do not touch this list that I just went over. Do not. Okay, there's a gap. So what I am doing is telling you with those amplifiers how good they are in comparison to these 5 that I just covered. That's what I'm doing, right? I am trying to tell you, hey, this is great. This gives you a lot of bang and a lot of the strengths from some of the best offerings out there, right? That's really what I'm trying to bring home to you. And I think a lot of you will find the next review very helpful, very informative. It's going to have a lot of great things for you to think about. I am still trying to put the list together. I'm not done with it yet. And maybe the video after that will be the top integrated. Now, with integrated, I will be very honest. I am still iffy about that review because although I have had about 5 integrateds, I believe, total, I can't say I've lived a long time with integrateds. I haven't. I have had them enough to understand what they do and know how good they are, but it's really not fair to compare an integrated amplifier to amplifiers like what I just covered. It really isn't a fair thing to do. So I need to really keep things into perspective and maybe just compare integrateds amongst themselves, not against separates, because I believe that separates will always have the edge. Unless, of course, you're talking about a pair of separates that retail for $20,000, and then you're comparing those to a $50,000 integrated. That's different. Clearly, that's a very different analysis, because you're talking about a crazy expensive integrated. Okay, so with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, and I will keep pumping out more videos soon. I'm going to continue to just give my opinion on a lot of other products, and then throw a shootout here and there. I have a couple of shootouts in mind. But for now, that's all I got, guys. Please subscribe and stay safe out there.